You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to The Archaeology Show. TAS goes behind the headlines to bring you the real stories about archaeology and the history around us. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello and welcome to The Archaeology Show, episode 271.
On today's show, we interview Dr. Andrew Kinkella about his career in archaeology and the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast.
Let's dig a little deeper. And I'll tell you what, the deeper we get, the more strange it probably gets.
It's true.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Rachel, how's it going? I literally have no idea because you're in another room today.
I am in another room. It's really weird to not be looking at you right now and like taking cues from your face. So yeah. I don't know what you're thinking.
I'm thinking it's kind of nice not to see you for once because, you know, we live in an RV. So it's been a long time.
Oh, are you saying you're sick of me? Cool.
No,
cool.
Well,
Got
you
it.
know, we've seen each other a little bit more this week than we even normally do, you know,
Yes.
which is all the time because we're on vacation this week. Yeah, I had no meetings. I canceled all my meetings this week, which is crazy.
It's been just like lake life, right? Because like my dad is from a lake in upstate New York, and we've just been like at his family's property, like lounging by the lake all day long.
Yeah.
It's been
nice.
Such a nice vacation. So can't complain, right?
Indeed,
we do go on vacation every once in a while at the APN.
I know. And I've been sitting here just hitting refresh on our Instagram page, waiting for our 1,000 followers that I asked for. And we're up to 755. And I don't think anyone like wants 20. Us to have an RV podcast. So, yeah.
I don't know what you expected. You're ridiculous.
Each week we've gained about 10 more followers. And I'm just expecting we're going to blow up here any minute now and go straight to 800. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen. You know, you have to actually post things on Instagram to be seen, right?
Oh, that's right. Hey, I posted yesterday. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's true. Good job.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to do it.
I know. Well, we got to get straight to the content today because, you know, we've started a little bit of a series that's probably going to take us 25 years to get through because of the pace that we're doing this on. But we interviewed a few episodes.
Throwing shade on me because I haven't gotten these together quick enough.
A little bit. We posted a few episodes ago an interview with Matilda Siebrecht. She's the host of a few of our episodes and our social media coordinator. And that was pretty fun. We like just chatting to her about what she does. And now we've got another host of one of our shows. In fact, he's a host of his own show and a co-host of one of our other shows. This is going to be the first of a 900-part episode. Only because of, you know, what he's involved in and what he does, but
all the things
that he does.
Yeah.
So, the stuff. Right. But ladies and gentlemen, now presenting for the first time on The Archaeology Show, Dr. Andrew Kinkella. Welcome to the show.
Yes, Dr. Andrew Kinkella.
Oh my God. I can't believe I'm here, ladies and gentlemen. Where is my career gone? You know, it was so high and now here. And my favorite part of this show so far, Chris, is you started it with like, you know, Rachel, it's kind of good not to see you.
I know.
You know, and then you just had to like, just had to dig himself out the whole time. No, I mean, you know, it's okay and all, just like worse.
It's
worse.
awesome not to be with you, wife. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Welcome to my life.
Yeah.
It's all right. Man. Yeah. I'm not much of a people person, so it's fine. I'd rather be alone.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Wounds hurt.
All right. Well, to give some context in case this is the only show you listen to on the Archaeology Podcast Network. First off, that's probably not a good thing. There's great shows on the APN. Second, Andrew is the host of the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast, which actually was one of the first shows that was started when the Archaeology Podcast Network became a thing almost 10 years ago. Right. It had a different host at the time, and it had a different name at the time, but the content was the same. And when that host decided to take her content elsewhere, and she just continued on somewhere else, that was fine. You know, we do that. We have a lot of shows that kind of come and go. We liked the subject matter, and we felt that was something like a few other, I guess, content lines, you could call them, that decide that we need to keep on the Archaeology Podcast Network. For example, the CRM Archaeology Podcast. If all of us hosts of the CRM Archaeology Podcast ever decided to leave, we would still have a show along those same lines, right? The Archaeotech podcast, the Archaeoanimals podcast is no longer podcasting. The hosts are doing other things now, but a zoo archaeology podcast is something we will put in that feed at some point in the future, right? It's just the kind of stuff that needs to be on this network. Well, pseudo-archaeology is a hot topic, everywhere, and people love hearing about it. They love hearing things get debunked and talking about things and hearing the reality behind the fake stuff on the news, TV, things like that. And that's why we kept the feed alive. And then Andrew took over. God, what is it? It's almost 3 years ago now, isn't it?
Something like that. I made 2.5. Yeah, that's pretty close. But I thought one of the things that was really interesting was the reason why we did it. Like, Chris, if you remember this, you were having a business meeting, right? The APN business meeting. Right? We were Zooming or whatever. And we were just looking at the data, and it's like, hey, there's this pseudo-archaeology show. It's been dormant for like 4.5 years, but it's still got like 400 views a month or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you guys, it's like you have a theater full of people and no show.
Yep.
So I'm like, dude, I'll do this, and I do have to say, it's been a blast, dude. I love doing the Pseudo-Archaeology podcast. It's like it's just a fun respite, it's a little less serious. I can kind of joke around. I always like to give it a vibe of it being recorded late at night. That sort of
it's as if it were recorded late at night. Yeah. It does sound almost like that.
Almost like it's actually recorded very, very sadly late at night. But I've always liked that sort of, wheels of steel to the midnight hour now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And
Archaeology after dark.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I've had a blast. I was worried initially. I'm like, dude, how many things can I talk about? I'm like, oh, what if I get to like 19 things and I'm like, I'm out. But that hasn't happened at all. There's so much crap. Like that's what's actually, it's sad but great, at the same time. Yeah. There's so much of this. So.
I love the historical figures episodes that you do where you're talking about people that sort of contributed to the beginnings of pseudo science and pseudo archaeology. Cause it's like, oh, I had no idea this goes so far back, and it's got such a long history of people like propagating these ideas.
I know, me too. It's like I do that just as much for me as for the audience, if that makes sense. Because I'm curious. I'm like, wait, Augustus Le Plongeon? Like, who's this guy?
Who's ever heard of that, right?
Yeah. And then there are these like major figures in this funky, almost occult, pseudo-archaeology thing from like the 1880s. There's a bunch of them, and it's odd. Like, it's interesting but odd. Yeah.
Well, you can see how like it's gotten popular over time, and that's when those kind of people sort of become more popular because they've got these ideas. Like when the occult was so popular, in like the 20s and 30s or whatever, and the people that had those kind of ideas also got popular and so did their work, and then it still is influencing us 100 years later. It's just crazy to see that history.
And time gives them more clout, because when you look at the original documents and the original things that they said and stuff, it is just such complete horseshit. You're like, come on, this is an embarrassment, right? Right? Like, but the sands of time give it this weird like heaviness, that it didn't have before, and you sort of have to take that away and be like, no, this was as crazy as it sounds.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, we can get into some of your other pseudo archaeology related things later on. But the reason you first came to the network and really how I got to know you was you were interviewed on the CRM Archaeology Podcast, and Heather McDaniel, which is one of our hosts on the podcast. She's been with us, at least 5 years now, I think. Yeah, quite a while. And she was one of your students. And that leads us to, fast forward after that. So you were interviewed. We liked you. We started talking to Heather. We were looking for some new hosts because we had some people cycle out, like happens. Yeah. And then you just became a host of the CRM Archaeology Podcast. And now you've been on that show ever since as well. So now you're on 2 shows and it's working really great. So, yeah.
So I actually just happened to be listening to the CRM Archaeology Podcast, and I heard Heather's voice, and I was like, wait, that's Heather. And I don't have a podcast, and one of my students does. How dare this happen? Right. So, so I, of course, used her to weasel into the APN That's just what I did. That's just what I did.
And now you're an integral part of,
Integral.
you know,
you say it?
at least
Integral?
2 shows.
Yeah.
Integral.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Integral. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Like that.
that leads us to your day job. So in prep for discussing your day job, I watched the first 2 episodes of Community last night again. And just because I wanted to have a common frame of reference.
Yeah.
So
Yes, of course.
I didn't get to any paintball episodes. So why don't you go ahead and tell us
Those are the best
a
ones.
little bit?
It's just like that, just slightly more wacky. No, so I am a full-time archaeology professor at Moore Park College in Southern California, and this is my 20th year, you guys. Good God,
Wow.
I'm the old professor now. It's like old man Andrew over in his office. You know, being weird.
Are you still the cool professor, or like,
that could not happen.
Are they not like coming to like chat with you about like life anymore?
It's not the same. Some, but you just have to let it go. You have to, you know, it's like Alice Cooper, you know, lines form on my face and hands, and they just do. And then
you're so Gen X. Oh my God.
That's right. I was born in 1972. I am Gen X Central. Like that is
nice.
Where
you are personified by Gen X.
Basically,
or Gen X personified.
It sounds like a joke, but it's not.
Nice.
So yeah, man. And I do have to say, I've been so lucky with my job. I've been so happy with it. Like, man, you know, sometimes we make wrong decisions, but sometimes we make right ones. And it's really worked out for me. I can't say enough good things. I'm one of those rare lucky people who just really likes their job.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
What are you teaching like each semester? Like what kind of classes are you teaching there?
Yeah. So for community college, a full schedule is 5, right? 5 classes. And I usually teach 6. Okay. I usually teach like 1 extra, just for, you know, for some extra cash.
Sure.
And so really my schedule is like 2 intro to archaeologies, maybe 1 like mysteries in the ancient Maya. I might have to teach 1 like bioanthro or cultural anthro, just depending on, you know, I might
like
have
kind of that generic type stuff, basically, like whatever they need. Yeah.
Right. If there's not enough archaeology students, but there usually is. And then finally on Saturdays, I teach a full day Saturday class on basically how to do archaeology, whether it be excavation or mapping or working in the lab. And
awesome.
then I put a new one on recently on like law and CRM. And I also pull in some historic archaeology in that.
Oh, okay.
How much of that do you get to choose though? Like they say, hey, you have to do an intro to archaeology, and then you got to kind of just get to pick the rest depending on how many archaeology students there are, or what?
Yeah, I basically choose it all. I like to say I'm the king of my own fiefdom. You know, I am the archaeologist. So and the program, I basically made it. Like when I first got there, they taught like 1 archaeology class every other semester. And there were 1 or 2 other things, but that was kind of what I've spent my career doing, was bolstering the archaeology wing of the anthro department.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was just telling Chris that like, I do feel like people kind of bypass community college a lot and go straight to 4-year college. And I don't know that that's a great idea, because some of my best classes I took in college were the ones that I took at community college, like either in the summer, or like one time I did like real bad in chemistry class. And I was like, I'm going to just take this at the community college. And it was so much better because the class was small and the professor was so engaged and he cared so much about teaching us. And it was just so much different than those big theater classrooms in a 4-year college where it's so impersonal and you don't feel like you really get to know your professors at all.
Yeah. It's like the world's like worst kept secret. And it's been true. It's been true for decades, you know, because if you're teaching at the community college level, they hire you based on your ability to teach. That is the first and foremost thing. Everything else is secondary. At the 4-year, it's not. It's all about research, you know, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But,
totally.
But Rachel, I've heard this story again and again and again. Yeah. And I do think, though, recently in kind of American culture in general, I do think it's finally sinking in because college is so expensive now.
Yes. Yeah. That makes total sense, because the reason I did it is because I needed to get some more credits, and it was honestly just cheaper to do it at the community college in the town that I was from rather than, you know, doing an extra semester at the university that I was at. So,
Right. Yep.
Well, I will say we've been interviewing several people for new podcasts on the APN we're planning on starting this semester, and one of them decided to this semester. Did I say semester? This summer. Yes, for the summer semester of the
summer
APN.
semester. Got it.
Yeah. And one of them, I'm not going to name her now because we'll see when we actually come out with a podcast. But she did decide to say, I think almost as an apology, she came out right in the middle of the little interview that Tristan and I did with her and said, I do have to say, my professor is Dr. Andrew Kinkella.
Oh no.
We will not hold that against you.
Oh no. You need to lose her number. You need to lose that right away.
Oh my God. Kinkella takes over.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's how I do it. It's slow and steady.
Nice.
Kinkella's army. Got
it's
it.
slow. Yeah.
All right. On that, I think we'll take our first break and we'll come back and continue this discussion on the other side. Back in a minute.
Hey there, entrepreneurs. What's the easiest choice you can make? Outsourcing tasks you hate. What about selling with Shopify? Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage, Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. With their all-in-one e-commerce platform and in-person POS system, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average. Plus, you can sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. I love how Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/DAX, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/DAX now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. That's shopify.com/DAX.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Archaeology Show, episode 271, and we're talking with Dr.
Yeah, I'm very important. Why does everyone laugh after I say that? I'm very important.
You are.
Indeed.
You are. VIP right here. VIP.
Yeah.
We're
That's
just going to title this episode VIP.
There you go.
That's right. If you know, you know. Yeah, that's right. That's what we'll title it.
There you go.
All right.
Man.
All right.
Yep.
So let's lead on to some of the other stuff you've done. You've worked a lot with the Maya. You're, pretty much what we call, one of those typical archaeologists. Like everybody's either Belizean or Mayan or, Egyptology. You're Mayan. So, whatever.
Yep.
Pretty much done what everybody else has done. That's pretty much all we have to say about that.
Chris, you can just say it. Like I am a walking, talking cliche.
Yes. That's right. That's right. Pretty much.
That is true. And I walk around in the jungle with a satchel, and a leather hat that's way too hot.
I was going to say, you better have the hat.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right.
Required.
Yeah. No, but seriously though, having been at Moore Park College and basically, Southern California for 20 years, how did you even get into Mayan archaeology?
Okay, so I got lucky in terms of I was at UCSB and there was a woman there who ran a Maya archaeology project. And this was like cliche in the best possible sense. She worked at a big Maya city in the middle of the jungle, right?
Yeah. Nice.
And it was just, I remember being a student and I was like, you could do that? Like you could go on that? Like, how do I get on that?
Right.
So I think I was a junior the first time I did it. And it was 3 months in the jungles of Belize. And after I did that, I was just like, wow, right? Like it was
hooked.
Really, really cool. So, and then I just kept coming back. Like I would ask the project, oh, hey, can you do you need anybody again? And they would charge me much less and I would just learn more. So I just was like this crew member who just never left. I just kept going. The years went by. And so my academic career in some ways is backwards from most people, where I had a ton of experience in Belize, but I would get all this experience. And then I'd go, well, I should probably get a master's degree, because I already had the on ground experience. And then I would just go. And then I'd be like, maybe I should get a PhD. And that's how it went for me. So it's backwards in a good way, I think, backwards from most people, because I had so much experience. I knew what I wanted. I knew how to do the stuff. And, that's how it worked out for me.
So are your master's and PhD then related to the work that you did is it Belize, right?
Yeah. So it all is ultimately like both my master's and PhD. So my master's thesis was on one of the cenotes, basically in Belize. The Carblanca pools is one. Yeah, it's very, very cool.
Those are so cool.
And then my dissertation was just an expansion of that, because there's actually 25 cenotes in a row in that area. So I just expanded. And it was a lot of jungle transect work, just mapping in the jungle. I did a little bit of excavation, but not too much. And then diving in some of the pools too. Okay. Yeah.
Well, then I guess that probably leads us into talking a little bit about underwater archaeology, because I knew you had done it, but I didn't realize it was in cenotes. So that's really cool.
So it's actually, okay, look, I have even more, okay, because it's like cooler. So I've actually worked on a shipwreck too.
Wow. Cool.
Dude,
I know. You're the coolest. We get it. Blah, blah, blah.
So actually the shipwreck was in Northern California. So it was like very cold water. It was a passenger steamer that had sunk in 1908, I think. But that was a trip. That wasn't a very long project, like 2 weeks, but it was cold. It was dark. It was difficult. And even a steel ship, underwater for about 100 years doesn't look like a steel ship anymore after 100 years. Like it was all like broken down, but it was fascinating. Like that was cool. That was a tough project. It's cold and all that kind of stuff. But then the cenotes are much easier just because they're warmer, So yeah, and it's funny. A lot of people ask me, how do I get into underwater archaeology? And it's actually a really hard question to answer, because most underwater archaeology programs are focused on shipwrecks, right? So if you are into historic archaeology and you're into shipwrecks, okay, there's a path for you. But if you're into like the cenotes or anything like that, it's a way different. Like my path in underwater archaeology is just really weird. I kind of made it work, but I don't have any degrees that say underwater archaeology. I never had advisors that say underwater archaeology. I have a dive master certification and I'm very comfortable in the water and that kind of stuff. And I doubled down on my strengths, which is what I tell my students to do.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of archaeology, like you get that question all the time. And I've interviewed, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of people. And the questions are always, how did you get to where you are and how do you do what you do? But the answer is always some variation of, well, I kind of just put myself in that position and I became that. I got in front of all these people and that's what I ended up doing. Right. Like I just needed it. Yeah.
It's like you just keep pushing until you're the only person left. It really,
right.
Like it's things like working with Lisa Lucero in Belize. She was my mentor and great friend. I had shown that I was a good student archaeologist. And I asked her, I was like, Lisa, there's these cenotes in the top of the project area. Like, what if I do my master's thesis? Like it was my idea,
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And then it was up to me to, buy some tanks and do the whole thing from there. So you just go for it.
So what came first, the scuba certification or the archaeology?
The short answer is the scuba certification, because I was always a water type person. Like I enjoy surfing. I was on the swim team in high school.
Oh, right. Southern California.
Yeah. Although I grew up in Northern California. So there was some cold swim meets, man.
Yeah.
But that was always a part of me and what I do. So I was always just jazzed to get my scuba certification and learn about that stuff. It was fun.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay. So then back to like the actual like specifics of doing archaeology underwater, because not being a scuba person and I'm not even I can snorkel, but like I'm not even like super comfortable with it. You know, I'm comfortable in the water, just not with like being underwater like for that long. You know,
just to be near Rachel with a snorkel on. That's all I got.
Only pulled it off your face and almost drowned you one time. Okay, you're fine.
God, you're okay. Only once. Quit your bitching, Chris.
You know, he's been bitching about it for like 15 years, so I don't want to hear it anymore.
Rachel, I'm here for you. Okay, I hear you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I only almost drowned him once.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, but like from a practical standpoint, you know, how long can you go down? What kind of work are you doing with each dive?
Okay.
Like what's that look like for you?
So it's varied, and the short answer is it's really slow and really expensive. Like every time, you know, and the deeper you go, the worse it gets. So the shipwreck I worked on in Northern California, that was only at like 35 or 40 feet.
Okay.
It was very cold and very dark. You could only see maybe like 6 feet in front of you. But you could, because it's only, let's say 35 feet, you could stay down for like an hour, like no problem. Or even more. What actually called the dives was the cold. We would just get too cold. So we always had enough oxygen. We just like too cold and had to get up. But in the cenotes can be very deep. The deepest one I worked on was 240 feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So normal diving, you cannot go that deep. And even though I'm a dive master, I don't go like lower than like regulation level, which is around 125 feet or so. And even by then, you don't have much time, right? So some of the years that we worked in the cenotes, we actually had National Geographic divers come with us. And I learned so much from those guys. That was so fascinating, you know? But so they would have all the crazy stuff like trimix and where they can go rebreathers, where they can go they can go to 200 feet. Right. So I always say this, like on my own project, I almost became a secondary person on my own project. Like my project became bigger than me. And I always relate it to Fight Club. If you've ever seen Fight Club, there's a scene in Fight Club where Tyler Durden, you know, is out there in his like robe and he's looking around at the house and there's just all these people like doing all this stuff. And he's like, what happened? You know, because this used to be just his idea. I had that exact same experience like at the cenotes. I'm like, there's all these people doing all this stuff. Like, it's cool, but who am I? Like,
you're just like coordinating it basically, right? Yeah.
It was.
You became a project manager.
It was nuts. It was so weird, but that was good. It was safe. They were better divers than me. That's okay, you know?
Yeah.
But it was, that was really fun. The early days were really exciting too, like carrying the tank deep into the jungle and, you know, trying to dive for the first time. Oh my God.
And what kind of stuff were you guys finding at the bottom of the cenotes?
So the cenotes,
was it archaeology or like?
So there would be like broken ceramic vessels and stuff like that. You know, pieces of stuff that the ancient Maya would have thrown in as part of like water ritual and this kind of stuff. But as an extra added bonus, in one of the cenotes, about 60 feet down, there was a layer from the Ice Age, and there was a giant sloth skeleton like in the side of the cenote. Like it looked like a cartoon. Almost like just this giant sloth skeleton in the side of the cenote. You know?
Wow.
Oh my God. And we originally thought that there was a bowl down there, an ancient Maya bowl, but it wasn't a bowl. It was the ball joint of the giant sloth's arm.
Oh, geez.
So,
oh my gosh. That's crazy. That's so cool.
Wow. That was nuts. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm so fascinated by that stuff, but
it's neat stuff.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, let's pivot just a little bit because we always kind of joke on your various shows about your media presence. But you do actually, I mean, you keep yourself in various places, right? Yeah. You've got a YouTube channel where you've got some YouTube stuff you do. You've been on various TV shows as what we call a talking head, doing various things.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, just tell us about some of that stuff that you've done over the years and how you've kind of gotten yourself into that.
Yeah. So about 5 years ago, I just had this moment in my office where I was just like, screw it, I'm going to take this seriously. And what I mean by that is there would be people, and I'm sure this has happened to you guys too. There would just be people online who would just like cold email you and be like, you would be really great for doing this archaeology show, you know? And it was always, you guys know how this is. Like, it was always just ill organized and just weird. And I'm like, what is this? But I'd had drama experience way back when. I was on this improv comedy team for a while. I'd done a lot of theater stuff. And so it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, dude, the productions are coming to you. If you were an actor, like, this is nuts. Like, this is so great that they would come to you. So I organized myself. I started my YouTube channel and I got an agent through Past Preservers, like Nigel Hetherington through Past Preservers. And then that was like 5 years ago or so. And since then I've done the like talking head thing, like you said, on Discovery Channel or the Science Channel, you know, when they do like the ancient Maya deep in the forest. And then they cut to me and I'm like, well, you see, the pre-classic Maya started at 250 BC. Right? I'm that guy. And I've really enjoyed that experience. It brings together both my enjoyment of kind of theater stuff and my enjoyment of archaeology stuff. Yeah. And so most recently, it's culminated in a new show that's actually on TMZ called Strange and Suspicious.
Strange. Okay. And Suspicious.
Yes. Which is like a little half an hour show. And if you've seen TMZ before, like where you have Harvey Levin and he's interviewing, it looks like almost reporters, right? Like 10 reporters in a room. And usually on TMZ, of course, they talk about like celebrity and that kind of stuff. But they decide to do a new show on like mysteries and that kind of stuff. So this does hit on stuff like ghosts and aliens a little bit sometimes and that kind of stuff. And you're like, hey, Andrew, how dare you even do this? You're like destroying your own career. But what I really appreciate about them is they let me just say my piece, you know, like I get to say if it's like, oh, no, that's actually not true, or I don't believe in that. Or and they've been only cool. So I've really enjoyed my time with them.
And how did you feel like they were editing you? Did you feel like they were letting you get your words in, or were they kind of cutting you off and like,
not always. Not always. It just depends. It's like if you watch some of the clips or whatever, sometimes you'll be like, hey, wait, it seems like Kinkella says that there's such thing as aliens, you know, but other times you'll be like, oh, yeah, well, he says there's no alien. And I was torn about that at first, you know, because other professional archaeologists will say, oh, I went on Ancient Aliens and I hated how they cut me, you know, that kind of stuff. But I swear, you guys, I've thought about this a lot. And I think it's super important that somebody who's labeled as an archaeologist gets anywhere in the media. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, this is a real person. And it's like, if people are interested, they can always Google me or whatever. And they know in 2 seconds, like, you know, how I really feel about these things. And honestly, again, I've really enjoyed the show. I'm happy to be a part of it. And I hope that more archaeologists, again, I don't have to talk to you guys. You're part of the APN, but I wish more people did what we do, like get out there. You'll hear stuff like, oh, you're platforming them. Like, no, you're not. We lost the platform decades ago. They're platforming us, you know, so get platformed, archaeologists.
Right.
Yeah. Probably one of the people with the biggest voices in archaeology today is probably Joe Rogan. I got to say.
Yeah.
And he's the one talking about stuff that people want to hear.
Absolutely. And I got to give the guy credit. Like, he's super fascinated about archaeology. You can tell in his voice. He freaking loves it. And so, you know, good. He's doing it. I hate all these, like, you know, pie in the sky academics who are like, well, I will only be on the documentary about my own research. And it's like, that's never going to happen. And you're boring as hell. You know, like, you have to be able to grab the audience. You just have to, or it goes nowhere.
Yeah. And like riding the coattails of one of these shows that are bigger and have a bigger audience, like, okay, it might not be the perfect way to do it, but at least you're trying to communicate to people, you know, whatever it is.
My big note to all of us in the archaeology community is just stop waiting, right? Get off your ass and do it. You know, it's only good.
So real quick, just looking at a couple of clips of the show, Strange and Suspicious, it is like a bunch of quote unquote experts. I won't put the quotes around you, Andrew. You're the only expert. But actually, quote unquote experts.
I have to defend those guys. A lot of them are actually real experts. Like there's people who are in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And there's someone who's like an astronomer, someone who's like a mathematician. Like I know you want like the secret dirt. Andrew, tell us how terrible the people are. Right. But I just can't. Like, they are consummate professionals. They know how to talk and they know stuff. Like, they're cool. I love just listening to them sometimes, like some of the murder ones, you know, to have the law enforcement people talk about. I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. You know?
I mean, you're speaking my language. I'm a big true crime fan. So
there's several true crime podcasters on there too. Like,
is there
big names? Yeah. Nice. And they, of course, having run a podcast for years and years and years, they know that true crime world.
Yeah.
So when we get a true crime one, I just kind of sit back and listen. I'm like, wow, this is neat. And I learn stuff live, which is
that's awesome.
Well, along those lines. Yeah, what I was wondering is a lot of you guys have, including you, have like a stack of papers in your hand. Is this how much information are you giving ahead of time, and are you able to do some like research? And is this notes that you're about to reference?
So this has happened like with every show I've ever been a part of, whether it's on Discovery Channel, like it's all the same. Yeah. They don't, I'm laughing because people think sometimes that I have like a script. I'm like, are you kidding? Have you heard me talk? Does that sound scripted? But what they do is they basically give you a beat sheet, where they have researchers, and then they'll do something like, this one murder mystery from 2010, or whatever. And they'll give you the setup. They'll be like, oh, on March 20th, 2010, this happened. And they basically have a beat sheet, and then they have some links to stuff where we can do our research. So usually the day before filming, I take several hours. It takes a while.
Yeah.
And I go over the stuff and I see what I can add, with my specialty as an archaeologist. I'm like, oh, I can talk about this, because that's cool. And they're really open to us adding to it, to not saying stuff we're not comfortable with. Like they're totally cool about that.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds really fun. We're gonna have to watch it for sure. It's out now, right?
It is. So you can find it on YouTube, and then also it's on Fox at different times depending on where you are in the country. I think in Southern California it's on at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yes, those are called time zones, but we'll link to it in the show notes.
Wow. Chris, it's like on the show. It's like I'm learning something live. I'm learning something from you.
You have to be open to it, right?
Yeah, you do. You just have to.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, with that, let's go take a break. And on the other side, we'll talk about something else fascinating, the red-headed giants of Lovelock, Nevada. Back in a minute.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome back to the Archaeology Show, episode 271. We're here with Dr. Andrew Kinkella, and we are going to disgrace his academic talents by talking about the Lovelock Giants.
You can't disgrace me. There's nothing left. There's nothing left, dude.
There's nothing left.
No.
Well, it's more of a debunking, right? Like,
yeah. All right. All right. So the reason I feel like we're bringing this up is there are two reasons. One, this is kind of in the pseudo-archaeology wheelhouse. Yeah. And, so we're going to bring, like with Tilly on, for her show, we brought something up that was kind of in her wheelhouse as to discuss, because it fits with the archaeology show. It's a news article. And here's the reason it's a news article, because it's not even news. We've seen this article come up around, I think 2 or 3 times in the last probably month or two. And when you really dig into the sources that they link, it always goes back to, usually there's like an archaeology magazine article from like 3 or 4 years ago where they brought it up again, and nothing is actually new though. But the headline is always archaeologists discovered giants in a cave in Lovelock or whatever, or red-headed giants, or it's always like it happened yesterday. Right. Yep. Yeah. But in reality, it happened 100 years ago, and nothing new has been done.
Yeah. When I read this article, I immediately thought of Dr. Kinkella.
Yeah, because they do. It's like when people think of giants, they're like, Andrew. Giants.
When I think fraud, I think no way.
Well, the reason I thought of you though is because like this is exactly what you've talked about in a lot of your episodes, where it was something like super small that happened 100 years ago, and then it just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up, and now there's red-headed giants in Lovelock, Nevada.
Exactly. It never ever dies, and it's just because people want it to be true. It's a slow news day. They just bottom of the barrel this shit, and it just never ever ever ends. And it's funny. Recently, I've kind of been like, am I getting a little burned out on some of this? Because it's made, some of it makes me more mad than it used to.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you've read it for the 100th time. I wonder if like Jeb Card and Jason Colavito and Ken Fader, I wonder if they all feel the
same. Yeah.
Where you just get to this point where you're like, because it's just so easily debunked and it's so freaking lame. And it has it's like, give me a little bit of like style, Give me something with a little bit of fun here, not just some dumb article. And I want to say one more thing before you get into it. Isn't it funny how giants are always 10 feet tall? They're always 10 feet tall.
Always.
Like, I've read so many of these.
Giant height.
Yeah, it's standard exactly. The SGH. The SGH
standard
is 10 feet. And it's like, so see, giants measure in feet. They're 10 feet tall. Anyway, that's just something that I've noticed recently.
Yeah, like why can't they be 50 feet tall? I never really thought about that before, but like, what? Yeah, why not,
Rachel? Because that's crazy. Okay.
That's one too far.
Yeah,
we're trying to get people to believe this crap, right? So,
seriously, I thought of that too.
Standard temple height in Greece, really, in Rome, is for people to be 10 feet tall, which is where a lot of your giant stories come from. Really, these are these are wacky offshoot giants that
these are second stringer giants.
Yeah, definitely.
These came with the Mormons when they came over. So.
Oh man,
let's spread that rumor.
It'll never die. It'll never die.
All right, Rachel, give us some background on this.
Yeah, okay. All right, real quick. So this is Lovelock Cave in Nevada. And the reason we picked this story, the other reason, not just that it reminded us of Andrew, but also because Chris and I have done some work in this part of Nevada. We worked on a big pipeline that went across northern Nevada, like way back in the day when we were doing CRM, and went right through the Lovelock area. So though we haven't worked in this cave, we are familiar with the archaeology in this area. And this cave is amazing. So if we don't take anything away from this conversation, you should take away that the archaeology in this cave is fantastic and there are no giants. And we should focus on the fantastic archaeology.
You know what's funny is the pseudo-archaeology crowd will dismiss you because you didn't work in the actual cave. They'll be like, you only worked nearby. They do that crap all the time. Like,
they totally do, don't they?
There's always a line.
No one can work in the cave anymore.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, we've kind of been near the cave, so therefore we are experts. No, so the basic gist here is like about 100, 120 years ago, there were some guys that were mining bat guano or whatever, and they found all these artifacts in the cave, and they did a lot of excavation, and they found some amazing things, including these duck decoys. This is why I really want people to know about this, because those duck decoys are super unique. They're beautifully constructed.
I didn't realize the duck decoys were from Lovelock.
Yes, and they found thousands and thousands of artifacts, and 11 of them were these duck decoys. 8 were complete, 3 were unfinished, which was really cool because I got to see like the insides and how they were making them. And then a bunch of them are on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian. So like these are some really important and really interesting artifacts.
And they look great. I mean, they look just like ducks. They're amazing. Really well done.
Yeah. So, of course, what do? We brush by that and decide that there were giants here.
Why do I come on this show? This just brings me down every time.
Yeah. I mean, not to give it too much because we really don't want to talk about the giants too much. They're super dumb. But there is like a legend, a Paiute legend of the Si Te Ka. And it was written down by this really important Native woman, Sarah Winnemucca Hopkins, who was the daughter of a Paiute chief. And Winnemucca, of course, is a town in Nevada, right in that same area that Lovelock is also in. And sure, of course, they had all these legends, and that makes total sense. But this idea that they found the remains of like giant humans in the cave is not true at all. And I'm not even sure exactly where they're getting with it. It just seems like it was journalistic sensation back in the day, and it just keeps sticking around. That's the best I can come up with for it.
It's again, going through all this stuff, as I've gone through probably hundreds of this stuff at this point, it's just always the same. No creativity. You know, I'm like, come on, give me some. Okay, you're saying they're giants. Give me something cool. You know, like go for it. But they don't. They got nothing. It's because they're ignorant in basic archaeology. So it's like you or I could make a way better giant story than they do. You know, but their story sucks.
The picture in the article is passed around too, and I'm not even sure that picture completely looks doctored to me, and I'm not even sure where that even came from.
And you know how not worth our time it is to go find that?
Yeah.
That's the other thing that drives me nuts. It's not worth our time to read it. It's not worth our time to debunk it. You know, it's maybe a little worth our time to have a little fun with it, but the rest is just like, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I really wanted to talk about like the whole actual archaeology aspect of it, because when that stuff gets buried by these pseudoscientific stories, it's very frustrating because there is really cool archaeology here.
Yeah.
And it just gets shoved aside.
The first time I heard of the duck decoys was I was a grad student in like a pretty high level archaeology class with a local California archaeologist who was teaching it. And it's like, dude, I should have heard about that way before. You know, the duck decoys are freaking awesome. Like I should have heard about that in like intro to archaeology or, you know, slightly thereafter. It's just sad. I'm sure you guys come across this. It's so sad that there's so many cool stories like that. Real ones. The duck decoys kick ass. But instead of that, you have the 1,000th giant red hair stupid story. You know?
Yeah. Oh, and that red haired thing. So there's a historian, Adrienne Mayer. She wrote about this in her book called Fossil Legends of the First Americans. And in her book, she was like, yeah, there was probably like rusty red color from something as it was decomposing in the soil. It might have even been from actual hair, you know, because they did find remains, but it's not that the hair was red. It's just like this color that the soil takes on from decomposition.
I know.
So
it hurts me.
Yeah. And also, we have to talk about the 15-inch sandal, right? Because apparently
I saw that.
I actually didn't really find a whole lot of evidence about that. I just saw it like an offhand mention. I don't really know.
But it's just going to be some like basket piece or something. If they even have anything at all. If they even have anything at all, they just bullshit it, you know? Yeah.
It just sounds like, and these rumors go back to like the 20s or whatever. It just sounds like there was like some sensationalism. They're probably trying to like, I don't know, sell a story to a newspaper or bring in tourists or something, like whatever their goal was. But yeah, it just twisted the remains are real. There really was the remains of people in that cave. It's just they weren't giants. They weren't redheaded. They were just native remains that were buried in this cave, you know?
Yeah. And they were duck hunters with some killer like duck decoys and other stuff. I think they had other they might have had other like duck hunting equipment or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
Really neat. And the preservation, you know, to get something like that preserved like that is so rare. And so it's really great. Yeah.
Chris, didn't your professor work in this area? Because she's a textile archaeologist, right?
Yeah, Dr. Melinda Leach. She did work she definitely worked in the Lovelock area. I know that, but she's worked in and on a lot of collections in that area. So and back in the 80s and 70s. So good. Yeah. So one thing that really gets me about these articles, just back to the quote unquote news article. First off, this is from a place called, I don't even know what it is, indie100.com. It's just like has all these random things. Yeah.
It's so dumb.
And it's just one of those clickbaity sources that just is whatever it is, right? And I don't know who this Harriet Brewis is that actually did this, but the article, let's just put this together. The article is dated June 25th, 2024. Now, to her credit, she does link to Archaeology World, where she says, according to Archaeology World, if you click on the Archaeology World article, which is where everyone else who's reported on this in the last month also links to, it's June 5th, 2022. These people are literally just, this is exactly 2 years ago, and they're literally just on the day, they're searching what happened like on this day, what was reported on probably. And then they're just regurgitating the article and then they're taking a few weeks to publish it in their cycle, getting it through their system and then repurposing it and reporting it back, you know, and calling it back and citing it. And then we click on it and give them money. And that's pretty much how that happens. And it's just irritating.
I know. I'm almost about to like not link to any of these articles in the show notes because I don't want to give them any more links. But
link to World Archaeology if you're going to link to anybody.
Yeah, totally. But you know, Chris, when I originally found this, it was actually back in January. And then I sort of saw it and I took some notes and I was like, do we want to talk about this? Do we want to do it? I don't know. And I kind of put it in our hold place where we put stuff on hold that we're not really doing. And then the story came up again. So it's like on a 6-month cycle. Like every 6 months, somebody finds it, somebody regurgitates it, and then it's back in the news again, which is
I don't know how you found
why
it
we're still talking about this.
I don't know how you found it amongst all those Belize articles. Those are a dime a dozen.
Right.
Jesus.
All my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very famous.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well,
geez.
I know.
All
okay.
right.
So I guess our conclusion is there were no redheaded giants in Lovelock, Nevada.
Rachel, you got to open your mind. You're so close-minded. You're just another part of big archaeology. Just with your story.
It's me. I just want to smack down the man.
Oh, God.
Smacking him down.
Open your mind.
Yeah. I'm going to find an article or a page or something about the duck decoys and link to that, though. In the
Yes,
those are so cool, and everybody needs to see them for sure.
I think that's great.
The other stuff that the Paiute did with reeds, because in the Lovelock area, in the Fallon, Nevada, in the Fallon area, because the cave, Rachel, what is the name of the little rock art area off the rest stop just east of Fallon? What the heck is that called?
Not Gerlach, right?
No, that's
not
North
Gerlach.
Arena. Anyway, there's another cave out to the east of Fallon where a lot of cool stuff has been found. There's a lot of little caves where back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, actually a lot of PhDs were made. David Hurst Thomas did a lot of digging out here. There's a lot of people that got PhDs just digging and finding cool stuff.
And that makes them very important. They're very important if they have a PhD.
So you know.
We know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Unlike some of the people we've had on this show, those PhDs are actually
those are weak. Yeah. These are real ones. These are real PhDs.
But some of the things the Paiute have done with the reeds that would grow up in these like marshy areas and stuff, and the baskets and the sandals and the duck decoys and the things like that they would make are just amazing artistry. And the preservation in the caves where we'd find some of this stuff is just ridiculous.
The preservation is insane all across northern Nevada. So they find some of the most amazing things there.
I love listening to you guys talk about like the archaeology of Nevada. I think it gets short shrift. I'm serious. I think it gets like short shrift, and that's one of the places where I'm like, when I'm 80 years old, I can see myself like walking the plains of northern Nevada. Like that could be awesome.
And you'll still find stuff just like randomly walking around.
That's the thing.
There's like so no people still in the state of Nevada, so there's so much unexplored territory. You absolutely could find stuff.
Note to like PhD students, that's where to go. Don't be the 4,000th Maya archaeologist. Go to like northern Nevada. It's just open. Yeah,
there's so much to do there. So much to find.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, we're coming to the end. What's next on the plate after Strange and Suspicious for Dr. Kinkella?
I'm just living day by day, Chris. I'm just taking it in. I'll tell you what it is. It's to record my actual Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast episode, which I'm sure is late because it's always late.
Hey, there you go.
On my plate.
Nice.
Hey, there you go. Nice. Love to hear that.
I know what I want to do too. I got my next one. I want to do Amelia Earhart because actually we did a segment on Amelia Earhart for Strange and Suspicious. And this is one of those times where I'm like, oh, sweet. I could just repurpose this because it was actually on my list, Amelia Earhart to do. So I'm like, oh, I just did this. It's fresh in my mind. There's some really cool new stuff.
There's some good stuff. And we just talked about some recent, was it sonar images, Chris, that we just talked about that they found of an airplane image?
It's pretty sweet. Like,
it's
the best I've ever seen. Like, it's the best possibility ever. Since 1937. Yeah.
We've had a number of people on from the Search for Amelia Earhart on this show and a couple on CRM Podcast in the past years, including Tom King, who was part of the Tigar research project until he had a little bit of a falling out.
As was said in Indiana Jones, they're digging in the wrong place.
Yes. Yep.
It
does seem like they went down the wrong path. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Indeed.
Well, we look forward to hearing that because I'm excited to see where the research keeps going there for sure.
You're like, I'm looking forward to hearing that when you would get off your ass and record it already.
Record it.
Yeah, if you need us to just keep this rolling and we'll back off, just keep it going.
Hello and welcome to the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast.
Perfect.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, for anybody listening to this, you've got two things to do as soon as we're done here. The first one is go follow us on Instagram, Roadster Adventures. If you want to hear, Andrew, we had a challenge that if we got to 1,000 followers on the Roadster Adventures Instagram page, which is our RVing one, but we also do like archaeology stuff on there too, then we would start an RVing podcast separate from all of this nonsense, right? So it's a challenge. We've 20 people have heeded the call and followed our page in 2 weeks.
I'm gonna purposefully not follow it. That's what I'm going to do.
Perfect. That's what we would expect. Perfect.
I don't need, I don't need
you're
you
way
guys.
too important for us, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if I don't hear on Strange and Suspicious, you know what else is Strange and Suspicious? The Roadster Adventures Instagram page. That is Strange and Suspicious to me.
So strange.
But anyway,
ridiculous.
Yeah. But anyway, check the show notes. Go check out Andrew's podcast, the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast. And if you're a real glutton for punishment, you can check out the CRM Archaeology Podcast. But I've always said, if you're not a CRM archaeologist, I don't know why you would listen to that show. But if you want to be entertained, sometimes there's some good stuff on there that is entertaining. But it really is for professionals. But the Pseudo-Archaeology Podcast it really is entertaining. I do like listening to that show. Yeah. It is for a broad audience.
Yeah,
you don't have to be an archaeologist to understand stuff over there. Sometimes you do, but on some of our shows. But this one is made for a wider audience, much like this show is. So,
and also make sure and go follow Andrew on YouTube, right?
Oh, that's right.
We didn't really even talked about YouTube, but
Kinkella Teaches Archaeology, my new YouTube show.
Yeah.
I just turned over 5,000 subscribers.
Ooh,
I'm like an
you
influencer.
are famous.
I know.
Dang.
Nice. I know.
The presence of royalty here.
I'm very important.
I know.
We'll have links to all this in the show notes, of course.
Yes. All right. Well, tune in next week for part 2 of our 900-part series on Dr. Andrew Kinkella. No, I'm just kidding.
So there I was,
something else.
at the age of 7.
That's right.
Okay, it's going off the rails.
Right. Yeah, let's go.
Indeed. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody else.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Rachel.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Archaeology Show. Feel free to comment and view the show notes on the website at www.arcpodnet.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ArcPodNet. Music for this show is called I Wish You Would Look from the band Sea Hero. Again, thanks for listening and have an awesome day. This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Culturo Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Rachel Roden.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.arcpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.